Aquarius. We have these constellation sheets, and if you want to get a copy of these sheets, you can just maybe you could hold that. Could you hold that up, and Elliot could focus in on Aquarius. Let me tell you something interesting as we start off with this. Okay, that's fine. In each constellation, there are what they call 3 decans. That's how churches get the word deacons for, their people that hang around and do things. Decans. Well, that's what they do, hang around and do things. Those 3 decans make up 10 degrees each. So each constellation has 30 degrees. And there are 12 constellations which make up the 360 degrees of the zodiacal circle. That's why there was a need in order to coordinate the calendar to add an additional 5 days, which were added, but those 360 degrees formed the first calendar, and then the 5 days were added. That's why you have 365 days in a year. And the ancients only could see 7 planets. They couldn't see the others because they didn't have telescopes. That's why you have 7 days in a week. And of course, the 12 constellations is why you have 12 months in a year. If those guys didn't look at that stuff, God knows what you'd have. I mean, you could have, 45 days in a week. Who knows? I don't know. But that's where it all comes from. And we come to this point of Aquarius, and if you look at the bottom of that page of Aquarius, you see something called Piscis Australis, Astralis, which is the first decan of Aquarius, and that means the southern, call that the southern fish, okay? The second one, and the next page is one I'm sure many of you know. It's called Pegasus. I don't know how many of you remember Tidal gasoline. You remember that? The red sign of the flying red horse? That's Pegasus. Okay, so that's the flying horse. And the third one is one called Cygnus, Cygnus, which is the swan. Now, I'm not predicting your fortune. I'm simply telling you what you have on the ceiling of this universe, what there is that God placed in the sky above you. And I'll tell you why it's important for you to understand these things, because in Psalm 147, it said God named the stars. Well, if God gave them these names, don't you think that it would be reasonable for us to find out why? And then what are they for? It says in the very first page of the Bible, in Genesis 1, that there are going to be stars in the sky. Let them be for signs. Let them be for signs. How did the Magi know where Jesus was? They followed a star. Well, they didn't actually follow a star that was moving. They understood the meaning of the star, because the Iranian prophet Zoroaster made this prediction. There will be a child king born, and it will be revealed in Virgo. Interesting. Born of a virgin. They read the stars. They were astrologers. They were from the tribe of Magi, which are Magians from Iran. They were astrologers. The root of that word is the root of the word magician. And actually, it's interesting when you see that an Iranian prophet led these astrologers to find Jesus Christ. And there's nothing that Christians understand less than Iranian prophets and astrologers. But nonetheless, that's the way it is. And you have to deal with that. It's truth. It's a fact. But the Magi, well, that's what they are. They're astrologers. They were sent there by an Iranian prophet by the name of Zoroaster. And they are the ones who announced the birth of Jesus Christ. Well, what have we done so far in studying these constellations? We've come through the virgin birth. We've come through Virgo. We've come through Coma. We've come through the sin offering of Centaurus. We've come through the price paid in Libra. Isn't it interesting that in Libra there are 2 scales? And the lower scale is called, the star in the lower scale is called the price deficient. It represents the lower mind. The star in the higher scale is called the price that covers. It represents the higher mind. And then we came through, after we came through that, we came through the cross of crooks. We came to the crown of Corona. We observed the transformation of consciousness in Sagittarius. We observed the duality of consciousness of that which is coming out of the fish in Capricorn, Taurus, the bull, Pisces, the whole business, the dolphin, Delphinus. And now it's time for the blessings to pour forth from the waterman, Aquarius. Aquarius. I really wanted to have the record playing tonight. Let the sun shine in. When the moon is in the 7th house, it means when your subconscious raises itself up to the place of the Sabbath, which is the pineal Jupiter aligns with Mars. You can tell us what that means, Johnny. Then peace will cover the planet. Love will rule the stars. What is wrong with, what is to be feared if peace covers the planet and love rules the stars? That's where we're coming. That's where we're coming in this great wedding of Uranus and so forth, which I've talked to you about. But I want you to see something. I told the folks gathered here a few moments ago something. But for the rest of you, you have the little Bibles in the church. If you go to page 83, the rest of you go to Luke 22. Luke 22. And then we have a prophecy by Jesus Christ. Now, you see, you might say, well, I don't know if it means that. Well, it's irrelevant whether you know or I know. It's in the book. That's all I'm interested in you seeing, that if you open the Bible, it's in the book, okay? In those little Bibles, page 83. For the rest of you in Alaska, California, and all over, you cannot go to a store and buy a little Bible, all right? They don't sell them by the name of little Bibles. They're just little. We call them little Bibles. Page 83 in the New Testament, okay? If you're not familiar with using a Bible, then you go from 1 to about 600 in the Old Testament, and then you start over again and go from 1 up into the New Testament. We're on page 83 in the New Testament. We're on Luke 22, and I want to show you a prophecy by Jesus Christ. Luke 22, verse 10. Behold, when you enter into the city. City in mysticism always means consciousness. When you are conscious of this, what will happen? There shall a man meet you bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house, and then it goes on to say that he will lead you to the upper room. What Jesus Christ was talking about, and Jesus Christ was very astronomical. Jesus Christ made the statement once, in my Father's house are many mansions. A house is a solar zodiac, a mansion is a lunar zodiac. Jesus Christ understood the stars, he understood the creation. He wasn't afraid of the creation of God. He wasn't a fortune teller, he was a prophet, he was the Christ, as he said, you are. And he said, when you see the man with the pitcher of water, now is the age of the man with the pitcher of water. It's coming in 19 years. The year 2010 will be the man of the age of the pitcher of water. When you see that, enter into the house. The house is yourself. Go to the upper room, which is your higher consciousness, and Jesus said, I will meet you there, and I will feed you the hidden manna. They say, well, I don't know if he means that. Well, here's a way to find out. Enter into yourself. Raise your consciousness to the higher level and see if he meets you there. I loved what Buddha said. Buddha said you've got to have 3 things. 1, he says you've got to have a document. Here's your document. Excuse me. You've got to have a document. 2, you've got to understand it. That means you've got to understand the mystery of that document. And 3, he says you've got to apply what it says, and if it works, you've made it. If it doesn't, throw it away. That's the way you prove it. That's the way you prove it. You come in here on Tuesday nights, people sit on the floor, they go Om, and they lift themselves into nirvana, they lift themselves into a higher consciousness, and we have people that are coming here with inoperable cancers who are going to their doctors, who are being treated by their doctors, who are having wonderful doctors, wonderful treatment, but who, since they have started this meditation process and got their immune system and their mind coordinated in harmony with the universe, doctors saying, I can't understand, this cancer should have gone to your brain, it's going the other way. Is this true? University of Pennsylvania. What is it? It's not hocus pocus. It's not magic. It's not miracles. There is no such thing as miracles. Miracles are just things that never happened before. There's nothing supernatural. God is natural. God is within you. But when you start to apply these principles of harmony with the universe, your immune system focuses in on those things. Your brain and your mind all work together in a harmonic from God, from the higher realm of the right hemisphere of the brain, and these things can be dealt with. And so when Jesus Christ says, when you see the man with the pitcher of water, what was he, playing games with these guys? How do we know what house to go in? Why didn't he say 17 Main Street? No, you're going to see a man with a pitcher of water. When he goes in the house, you follow him. You see the guy? I'm going to see a guy with a pitcher of water. Look up. Here, you got a picture of him right in your hand. You see the man with the pitcher of water? Enter into the house. The house is Aquarius. Go to the upper room, which is your higher mind, and you'll find it. You know, I can't prove it to you. You can't prove it to me. You can't prove you do this. I can't prove I do it. All I'm saying to you, if you're embarrassed by this, go into the bathroom and run the water. Who will know? Get in the tub. Put your head under the water and go home. Who will ever hear you? Do whatever you have to do. Nobody will ever know. You can come here and say, you're nuts. You're a screwball. I'll have no part of this stuff. But do it anyhow, and I'll not know. See? And then you'll preserve your macho ego, but at the same time, you'll do it. You have nothing to prove to me. I have nothing to prove to you. Go for it. Otherwise, what's the alternative? Would you rather get a gun and go to Iraq and fight somebody? For what? Shall we go over there and shoot people and they'll shoot us? For what? One American dies. One Iraqi dies. I said, people say, oh, well, we have to go over, we have to set those people straight. I said, before you say that, go back on a Sunday morning to our classrooms and see the little children there. And just think that each of those little children could also be a little Iraqi children. Those children are going to be blown to pieces because the bomb doesn't know it's not supposed to blow up little children. No more. And that's what this great age says. We've had it with it. The violence is enough because that violence that comes from the country filters down into the towns, filters down into your house, and we have houses where people throw things at one another, kill each other, rape each other. It's all violence, and it all comes from the lower mind. And that's why the scale says you got to reach up to that scale, the higher scale. That's why Jesus Christ says you got to go to the upper room. And the upper room is nothing more than your own consciousness, and it's all between you and God, and it doesn't cost you a dime. And if anybody says you got to send $10 or $1,000, tell him he's a fake, he's a fraud, he's a con artist, he's a crook. A crook with a bank robber will at least have the courage to come in and say to you, my friend, I'm a bank robber, give me your money. He's got these other guys say, I'm a prophet, give me your money. But they're still crooks. A crook is a crook. And when somebody takes money out of your pocket under false pretenses, he's a crook. And anybody that says you got to spend a dime to get a healing or get a blessing from God is a crook. You don't need anything but yourself and Christ within you. And Christ is your higher mind, and he dwells in your heart.